Today we have to talk about possibly the worst piece of news for Nintendo, that is, when it comes to the Nintendo Switch game library, and specifically what users will be able to do with that said library going forward from here, because you probably have seen at this point over the last 24 to 48 hours a story circulating widely online that yes indeed some kind of a cartridge flash cart has been created for the Nintendo Switch, and it promises to load games off of an SD card. In theory, these would be games that you could likely illegally download, and the claims also state that it's compatible with all versions of Nintendo Switch firmware currently out there and all models of the Switch. And so there's this possibility now, without even hacking your Switch and doing unsigned code related steps, that you might just be able to download games online, plug them into the Switch, and essentially have an unlimited free games library. But the longer that this post has been out there and circulating online, that same idea is being called into question by some very credible names. So I actually want to get on the same page with exactly what this means for Nintendo and if it impacts anything in terms of Nintendo's broader plans for transitioning to their next generation hardware that we know should be around the corner in 2024. And before we do all that, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And with that, we have to first read through the following post on X, which notably is at over 7.3 million views at the time of filming this video, where it says from an account After Time X, exciting news for the Switch scene. We have obtained from one of our followers an exclusive video from an upcoming product this person is a beta tester for. Apparently a flash cart type device is coming pretty soon for the Nintendo Switch, which supports all firmwares, all console types from all regions. Although it was long overdue, we were a bit skeptical, so we asked for some kind of proof. To our surprise, this person sent us soon after a video demonstrating the product in use, and it seems perfectly legit. Anyway, we were told the production is ready. They are apparently shipping the first units in January 2024, so we should learn more very soon. We were promised more updates soon, so make sure to follow us for the latest news about this device and a lot more on After Time X. Now, what the video actually showcases here, and shout outs to the person doing this, definitely did not want to be identifiable in any way, shape, or form. You can't make out anything from the Switch screen reflections. They have white gloves on the entire time, but what they are demonstrating is that they can actually boot up games with this flash cart device as they first go through and boot up Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and it appears to be playing that game thinking that that Switch cart is inside of the cartridge slot, which it clearly is not, because this is a cartridge that uses a micro SD card slot. And what's very interesting about this, and we'll have to see if this is how the final product works, is that it seems like for them to switch through their game library, they are needing to eject the cart and put the cart back in. As you can see, every time they do so, the software does indeed change, but the person even goes a step further to prove that this is legit by then launching Mario Kart 8 Deluxe in the same said flash cart. Now, if that's the way you have to cycle through your games library, that's already a very inconvenient layout. You would literally be required to eject and reinsert the cart. And if you have 40 or 50 games on there, are you going to sit there and do that 40 or 50 times? Maybe that's something that will be solved for as this thing hits closer to its production window. I don't know. But what's very interesting that a lot of people have also noted about this flash cart is that it's not really using any custom homebrew software on the Nintendo Switch. And that's one thing where the convenience factor is definitely there because you don't have to mod your Switch. But at the same time, if you have no custom UI or separate menu system to go to select your games and kind of navigate all of this, it really seems like a major inconvenience at that point. Now, a data miner that we have talked about a few times in the past on this channel, mainly related to N64 with NSO and some of their findings around that kind of stuff, known as Luigi Blood over on X, shared some interesting perspectives about this maybe not being all it's cracked up to be. As you can see, the following thread of posts which read, a lot of people seem to think this would allow CFW and homebrew. It won't. Unless demonstrated otherwise, this only plays signed content, as in real Switch games only. Heck, there's no handy menu for game selection, so I think it's a dumb pure Switch game cartridge simulation. Case in point, changing games requires removing and putting the cart again in the slot. Having the ability to play homebrew or CFW would require it to exploit the OS security, which so far there's no evidence that it does. Honestly, the more I speak with other people about it, the more I think this flash card just sucks. I own 40 physical Switch games. I'm going to have to push and pull the cart 40 times to swap games. Also, it would only work with cart dumps that aren't stripped of its unique cart info. Also, I would need a modded Switch to dump my games, so why would I even bother? If you're planning on using this for piracy, Nintendo will just look for the unique cart info available online and ban them. Here's one way to say how terrible of a piracy device this might be, and sure, maybe it's too early to say, but just know this: if you're a pirate, there's a significant chance that your downloaded ROMs won't even work on it, since they are usually stripped of the unique cart info. So obviously, if this thing can just play unsigned games without unique cart info from being downloaded online via piracy, that is a very bad news situation for Nintendo, and they're likely coming after this person either way, or doing everything they can to identify where this originated from, and they want to strike it down clearly. If you're Nintendo, you don't want your games easily downloadable and playable on a Switch that you really don't have to hack, and you're essentially just dodging the $50, $60, and $70 price points of the games library if you can easily download them and throw them on your flash cart online. What hasn't been proven yet, though, with this viral video circulating is that you don't need the unique cart info, which would definitely create more of a roadblock for the piracy situation. And obviously, Nintendo could continue to update their system firmware to block this thing, but assuming the cart may be updatable as well, it would kind of be a race back and forth where this thing works and then it doesn't. And I've also seen a number of users online saying that if this thing is real and there's now a flash cart that works for Nintendo Switch cartridge games, well, then that must mean that you can kiss backwards compatibility behind on the successor to the Nintendo Switch. And that's where I think we really have to slow down and see the capabilities of this actual flash cart in the hands of users once it supposedly starts shipping in January, before you can jump to any kind of conclusion like that. One, we don't know how exactly Nintendo will handle backwards compatibility on the next gen Switch. You would assume that physical backwards compatibility, if they do it at all, will of course be a thing. So in theory, this should read the same exact cartridge slots that the Switch has. So if this exploits that and it works on modern versions of the firmware, maybe the Switch 2 would just be easily susceptible to this day one, but that is just too much of a stretch of a claim to make at this point in time. We also had Nate the Hate, or Direct Feed Games, weighing in on this issue over on X, where he says, an interesting development. Will be interesting to see if it's legit. Before anyone asks, will this impact Nintendo's plans of introduction for the Switch successor? No, it will not. Nintendo will reveal that as intended. This will in no way influence or change said plans. So to kind of unpack all of the possibilities here, one, we first have the probability that maybe this thing is just a doctored video and they just did a really great job editing and you can't tell that there are any jump cuts, even though there could be some. I mean, that's a possibility. It doesn't look fake to me on that front. There's nothing in the video that is a red flag that pops out to me with that kind of stuff. But then you have the big claims that this is a flash cart that of course will work with all versions of Nintendo Switch firmware, but we don't know what the requirements are for the ROMs that you have to download. Obviously, if you're booting up games and going into online mode with them on an unmodded Switch and it doesn't have the unique cartridge ID or any other security checks that Nintendo could verify via their online connection, well, you're probably just going to get your Switch permanently banned right away with no questions asked. So it's really going to be a risky device. You'd essentially want to have your thing in airplane mode so it's not accidentally connecting to Wi-Fi at any time whenever you're playing through these games on the Switch cartridge. And it just seems like overall, with there being no custom menu in terms of sorting through your games library, that maybe this isn't the biggest doomsday news for Nintendo. And while we might see future iterations of this product that will ultimately spell very bad news for Nintendo, it's also not the worst time that this could have happened, because of course we are well into the Nintendo Switch's life cycle. It will have been a full 7 years as of March 2024 that this thing has been sold and available to us. And while I do think we will see cross-gen support for a while from Nintendo in some way, shape, or form when they transition to their next-gen hardware, Nintendo historically is known for really pushing everything forward to the new console relatively quickly. So while they might be dealing with some backwards compatibility piracy, as far as all of their new Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive games for their next-gen hardware, they're not going to be in a situation where those games are immediately piratable either way. But nonetheless, this will be a very interesting story to follow, and I will have future updates for you guys as we get any more concrete information around it. But is this Nintendo's worst nightmare nightmare and the worst news they've received so far. Potentially it has some negative implications for their overall software sales, but I wouldn't say that it's an end-all be-all. The entire Switch library is just easily piratable and playable now on native hardware. It doesn't quite yet seem to be confirmed that that is what is going on here, but that's where I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, your personal thoughts and opinions around this flashcard situation. Do you think Nintendo's going to get ahead of this thing before production even starts and before January is here to start selling the thing, that they have their ninjas show up and shut it down? Or do you think that there's likely a chance that what we've seen in the video isn't even the full capabilities of the cartridge, and maybe there is some kind of custom games loader menu? Or what do you think about having to eject and reinsert the cartridge every time to switch the game? Do you see that as a big flaw in the design of the thing like I do? And finally, do you think this in any way, shape, or form affects Nintendo's plans with backwards compatibility and what they may be doing with the launch of the next generation console? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before we leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch the video on screen next if you haven't already. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.